Hey you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel where I basically share my experiences as an international student in Ireland. And so as you guys know, I've been studying for my master's at the University of Limerick in Ireland. And so basically today I thought I would like to do a review of the course that I've been doing. And in case I never mentioned it, I am doing my master's in project management, which is an MSc in project management at the University of Limerick under the KMA Business School. So it's a really good course, and maybe someone out there is, trying to find out whether they should do this course. They're trying to find out what masters to do and you're not sure. So basically, I'm just gonna share a few things and review the course, what it was like for me, how I found it personally. So, I'm gonna be looking at things like what are the pre-requirements for the course for you to get accepted or to get an admission into the course, and like how much are the fees for international students for this course, and as well in terms of the content, what it was like basically, in terms of the modules, what can you expect from the modules, what kind of modules do they have, what do they cover, which aspects of project management do they cover, and the assessments as well in terms of assignments and group work and individual work, academic writing, what can you expect, what will be expected from you as a student, the learning aspect of it, and about the relevancy of the course, of the project management course to the industry standards, and obviously whether it's it's worth it or not. Is it worth it to do this masters? Is it good? What kind of job opportunities do you have at the end in Ireland, as a project manager, coming from this masters? So stay tuned, and hopefully this will help you in making a decision of whether to choose to do a master's in project management or not. So just to start maybe with a bit of an overview of what I think the course is intended for, or is intended to do. I think it's basically, the masters was designed to give students, especially those people that are maybe interested in pursuing their careers in project related disciplines, or project management rather. And the aim is basically to give students, maybe you could be fresh from the university, or you could be an experienced someone who basically just wants to venture into project management, or who's been doing a lot of project management at work, but you feel like maybe you want to learn some new skills. So that's where the masters comes in. It basically gives you an exposure, the ability to develop some project management theories, to gain more knowledge and more insight basically into project work, and to be able to critically analyze projects in the work environment, and how projects basically in these days can basically help organizations to thrive and have the competitive lead. So it's more than just about managing a project and making sure that you're getting it from start to end within time, scope, and budget. It's more than that. It's basically how projects can help organizations thrive. So it's a very broad course that covers all different kind of aspects. You will see that basically from the modules that I'm going to describe that are covered in the course. So it's a really good course. You get to gain so much knowledge, so much skills that you normally wouldn't have gained maybe just from a simple PMP or something like that. So that's a good course. So in terms of the requirements, you can get this also from the university's page, but one thing I do know that they require, I think the minimum requirement is it's a bachelor's degree. So and it can be from any field. I think it can be from health sciences, it can be engineering, it can be pharmaceutical, it can be any discipline. IT. Like from my class, we had people from all different kinds of courses, from sports management and HR, but you need a minimum, at least a bachelor's degree. Okay. And then if you're coming from a non-speaking English country, you will have to do the English language testing system, IELTS exams, obviously, and the minimum your score cannot be below 6.5, with no aspect, either speaking, listening, or talking, cannot be less than 6. You'll understand this when you're doing the IELTS exam, but that's another minimum requirement. And then you might, maybe depending on your case, you might need, if you have some experience, you might have an interview with the course director. I had to have an interview with the course director just to find out to gauge your experience, whether you qualify for this course or not, and how is your experience, how relevant is this course for you, and how much of project management do you know, say cost management, risk management, quality management, all of those things. So you might have that interview. And then obviously when you apply, you will need your ID, you will need your full transcript from your previous university. Must be in English. If it's not, then it might have to be translated as well. And yeah, you will need your full transcript, and then you'll need the IELTS exam as well. And then they might send you a form. It depends. They might send you a long application form. I think they call it prior learning recognition form, that you might have to fill just to show basically why do you want to do project management, what project management work have you done, and what do you know about this, and why do you want to do this course. Not everyone does it, but it seems I had to do it, and it seems some people had to do it as well. So those are, I think, the main requirements. If I didn't cover them all, just go to the university's page and you will see all of the requirements that they list in there. But they're really not that strict, And then in terms of the fees, I recently checked on the university's page as well. It seems for the course, MSc in Project Management, the fees are 7,000 something euros for European students. And remember, for international students, we pay double. So it's around 14,000 euros for the 1 year taught master's degree in project management. That's a lot of money. So, it'd be good if you got a scholarship, or if you can pay for it yourself personally, that would be good as well. But yeah, it's around 14,000 euros. That's how much you're looking at for the taught MSc in project management. Because there's also another course that is MSc in project and program management. People do it online, so you can also do that if you want. But in terms of the overview, that's what I think the course is meant to be doing, and those are the fees, and those are the entry requirements. Right. So in terms of assessment, the way we didn't have exams in our year. The course doesn't have exams actually. The only exam that is there is for the decision and analysis one, that where you'll basically be writing, describe cognitive biases, describe this, how do you address decision making and all of that. But we had it online, so that was the only exam. But most of the assessment for all of the courses are like this. One, you have an individual assignment. Maybe it will count 50 or 60%, but it usually counts a bigger portion in most of these modules. Individual assignment, where you have to do research, academic writing, and make sure you do critical analysis, which means look at the both sides, the negative and the positive, and then summarize from there what you say. Don't just look on the one side. Be able to criticize and place the papers against each other. This author says this author says that. Okay, so that is very important. And then you would have a group assignment where you'll maybe be paired with 4 or 5 members across the class from different countries. That's what then that I like. The course is very diverse. It usually takes people from across the world, so you kind of engage and integrate with all different people from the different parts of the world, therefore bringing different types of skills and experiences and expertise. So you'll have a group work that again might also maybe count 40% or 30%, 35%, depending on the course leader. And then in that group work, you'll have to do that group work, put up a report together and present it. So, and then the last one is the reflective aspect, where you basically have to do a reflective writing. Maybe I'll make a video on this, on how to address reflective writing, because it was also hard for me to understand what do they mean by reflective writing. But basically, what they're saying is, look at, considering when you started the course, this is something that I think it's better if you do it every day or at the end of each lesson. What didn't you know when you came into the class? What did you learn, from this module, and how are you going to use this in future? Those are usually the three things. What did you learn? How did you learn it? Maybe how did you feel when, it can be a personal thing, it's a personal reflection. How did you feel when you learned about it, and how are you going to use this in future? That would usually count towards maybe, I think, 10% or so, and that gives you an overall 100% of the module. That's how most of the assessment go in each and every one of these modules. So I hope this helps as well. So now I'll get on to the content in terms of the course modules. What do they do? What are those modules, and what do they cover basically, and what was it like? Okay, so now let me get into the content basically of what kind of modules can you expect to do from this course. So the course is divided into 3 semesters: the autumn semester, the spring semester, as well as the summer semester. So the autumn semester starts in September up until January, and then from January to May, that will be your spring semester. And then the summer semester will be from May to September, and then you're done, which only concludes which only includes of the dissertation. That's the last semester. So the first semester, which is this is where you start with your masters. You do basically I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5 modules in total. The first one that you do is project management theories and principles. So this is where you basically look at the basic theories of project management. The definition of what is a project and what is the difference between a project and a program management. What makes a project a project? Why are projects important in the industry? And you look at the basics such as risk management, cost management, quality management, stakeholder engagement and stakeholder theories in projects. And then you also look at the triangle of the critical success factors of a project, where you have the time, scope and budget, making sure you complete your project within those parameters. So those are the kind of the basics that you look, the basics that makes project management, the theories, the core theories that come from the 60s and the 70s as in terms of managing small and big projects. So that's the first module that you do. That one is pretty basic. I'm not going to go much into it. And also obviously in project management science and principles module, you also look at things like the basic PMBOK, project management body of knowledge, which is at the core of project management, and you go through the knowledge areas in there, and you go through the group processes, from initiation to planning, monitoring and control, execution, monitoring and control, and then implementation phase. So you go through all of those things, and you go through things like developing a Gantt chart and how it works and all of those things. And as well, obviously, you look at the traditional method as well as the agile method, as the modern ways of managing project management, and can agile management be adopted by all industries in order to execute their project management. So these are some of the things that you basically look at. You also look at stakeholder theory in there, and those basic principles, benefits realization in projects that you look at, and basically as the basics and the sciences and principles of what project management is. And then the second module is strategy, formulation, and implementation. Now, this was one of my favorite courses personally, because what you basically look at in there is, formulating and implementing strategy. It's more on the business side, actually, this one, which is what I like. But looking at formulating and implementing strategy for projects or within organizations in general. So there you basically look at things like, how do companies formulate strategies? How do successful organizations formulate and implement their strategies? How do they remain, successful and in the competitive, having competitive lead, basically? And when things change, when the environment changes, when the business environment changes, how do these companies manage to sustain their position in this global market? So you basically look at things like, emergent and static strategies, where basically a company maybe might only adhere to their strategy, and because that's how they've always worked, so they don't want to, adapt to the changing environment. And then you have other companies that are emergent, so they basically, as the market changes, they also adapt their strategy. You look at, Michael Porter's 5 forces of 5 competitive forces, that basically shape the company's strategy, an organizational strategy. You look at SWOT analysis, internal and external factors that might affect a company's strategy or a company's success. So in this course, we were looking at analyzing, and criticizing leaders as well of these successful organizations. Like we were analyzing Amazon, and its leader, Jeff Bezos. Like, is he a good leader or is he a strategic leader? So you get to do that critical analysis between the two and analyze those kind of things, and Ryanair as well. So this was one of the presentations that I did actually on Amazon and Jeff Bezos. Finance strategic leadership. So one says it's a leadership concerned with the scope of activities and strategic choice of individuals and the pinnacle of organization. But also the core of strategic leadership is the ability of the leader himself to influence and motivate his employees in order to follow his strategic vision to improve the performance of the company. And there's a lot of definitions for strategic leadership, but in principle, most scholars agree that it involves 4 things. 1, an influential process between the leader and the followers. And then 2, it involves the impact of the leader's influence on his followers, and we also look at his behaviors and characteristics. 3, the perception of the followers on the leader also plays a critical role. And then most importantly, the context in which this influential process occurs is very important in strategic leadership. Now, most people prefer transformational leadership as one of the most suitable leaderships when it comes to organizations. But Avery found that
there is no solitary or no single suitable leadership strategy that is applicable to all organizations. Companies have to adapt strategies that are applicable in their organizational context. So with that being said, now we analyze Jeff Bezos as a strategic leader who has a transformational leadership style and has also influenced his company through the cultural leadership arena. He is publicly known as an enthusiastic, passionate, and he has transformed the e-commerce company. And we found that at Amazon, he prioritizes active involvement in idea generation with his employees. And then he also believes that Amazon is successful because learning and experimenting from failure is one of the key things that has led to Amazon's success. Now, that is the one side of leadership. If we look at the other side, we can criticize his leadership style. So one, we criticize him.
So you see, that's the kind of course that it is. So you basically look at how this strategy formulation implementation works in project and how that affects organizations, and how do organizations go about to make sure that they adapt, as the world changes, they adapt their strategies to the type of environment, the business environment that is. So that is basically strategy formulation and implementation. And then the other module is project planning and control. So this one we know it because it's one of the core of project management. So you look at in there, you basically look at things like the critical path method, where you determine which path is going to be the longest, to which one is going to affect the project, and like the minimum completion time of the project, and you look at basically planning, using Microsoft Project to plan your project timelines. And how do you control the budget? How do you control the spending? How do you control the value of the project? And you make sure your project remains within those parameters. So we use methods like EVM, which is the end value management, to calculate basically how far you're going to be out by your budget at the end of the project, or you're going to be within your project, within budget at every stage of the project. So you use those kind of tools and method, and it's a very critical aspect of project management, because that is on the planning and the control side, to make sure you guide your project. How do you control resources? How do you do resource allocation? All of those things. And here I feel like the university disappointed us. They dropped us because we did not get a good value out of this course. They hired someone who, granted, has experience, but he could not deliver the course content to us. He was basically just there reading the slides to us, 150 slides, just reading them to us. And so we didn't really get value out of the course. We had to do everything, but we don't really understand what he was saying. He couldn't deliver the course. So the university needs to invest in that and make sure they get someone who knows how to deliver the course, who understands this course, not just experience-wise, but also to deliver the content, because it's very important. So that's the other module that we basically do. Yeah, you'll have a practical session where you basically get a project and you have to do, resource allocation, timeline planning on it, and all other things. So that's project planning and control. And then the last module is people and behavior in projects. This was one of my favorite one of my favorite projects, modules, I mean. So in there, basically now, this is more focused on HR side of the project as well, because most of the time, you find that organizations, there's no human resource management in projects. It's usually done by the parent organization instead of the project itself. So in there, you look at how people behave in projects. How do you compensate people in HR? How do you, in projects, how do you address things like job satisfaction, work-life balance in projects, and how do all of these things affect the project success? How do they affect the project life? How do they affect the performance of the project? You're looking at performance reviews. Who is supposed to be doing performance reviews in projects? Is it line managers? Is it HR managers, or is it project managers? And do these project managers have those skills to be doing these performance reviews with their project participants? Or if a line manager is doing the review, does he know what the project participant is all about, what he's working on, and all of those things. So this is where basically you also look at why projects fail, communication. Why did some of the biggest projects fail? And that was one of the projects that we had, and I decided to go. Me and my group decided to go with what is the project? BP, explosion of BP in the Gulf of Mexico that happened a few years ago, and we basically had to dive into that project in terms of the people. Why did the project in terms of the people, lack of leadership skills, communication skills, and all of those things. And here's the presentation basically that me and my team had that day.
error associated with that. And we think people, whoever they are in that night shift, if they could figure out the consequence of that problem, and there is another aspect, safety part. If somebody from the safety department or some employee, they know the safety aspects of that situation, they could have prevented this failure of the project. So therefore, this training and development is much more important, where we can make people gain certain knowledge from their functional area, and this could, if implemented and the employee improve their functional skill, they could have prevented this incident. So in the training and development, obviously it increases the skills of the teams, and out of the literature, if we go, there are 3 training and development models, which was explained by Cross and Berry. And in that, what we found, the systematic learning and development is the approach the BP should have gone with the employees, so that all the knowledge that employee has to be taken, it has to be planned proper, and they could have improved the cross-functional training knowledge, cross-functional knowledge of their own.
So that is your first semester in short, and I hope you enjoyed this. I will make another video basically taking it now from the second semester and the third semester with all the other course content.